Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points. And today on the show, we will be talking about, honestly, whatever you guys want to talk about. I got to talk about Shake Milton and the countdown that we are on with Shake Milton at the top of the show. And then I'm basically going to dive into your guys' questions. I don't know how long this is going to go. I got a ton of questions from Twitter that I can get to. See one new question from iTunes that I will get to. And then however many questions that you guys come with here in the live comments, in the live chat, I'll try to get to a few of those as well, especially obviously if they are of the super chat variety. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive on in. Let's start with Shake Milton, who this is the most I ever want to talk about Shake Milton ever again, ever. Like, once this deadline passes one way or the other, we're done here. So Shake Milton, they have a guarantee date on his contract of July 20th. And what that means is, as it stands right now, if the Lakers waive Shake Milton, that amount of money that they could owe him this season, it's still, stacked onto their cap sheet, but it's written in pencil because before July 20th, the Lakers can at any moment waive him, and that money is completely off of the books. If they don't waive him by July 20th, they enter the season basically right up against that first apron hard cap, and would have basically, you would at that point need to trade guaranteed money into somebody's cap space, of which very few teams have any. And or you would need to trade make a consolidation trade where you send out more money than you bring in, which is possible. But this is the cleanest way between now and the end of the season that the Lakers can just carve out a chunk of their cap and open up a couple of roster spots. They can technically do the same thing with Jordan Goodwin as well, which is something to also keep an eye on. But these next, I'm recording this on at 10 p.m. Central on July 15th. I don't know when you guys are listening to this, but July 20th is a huge day for the Lakers, as we'll learn, I think, a lot about how much work they're looking to do with the remainder of this offseason. For what it's worth, I still continue to hear that Rob and the team are active on the trade market, trying to find some kind of consolidation trade, but a couple of things are holding it up. One, they don't want to trade their 2031 or 32 pick unless it's for a clear-cut impact, like immediate type impact player. Herb Jones comes to mind. They would have traded a first rounder for him, but he wasn't necessarily all that available. Wiggins, I don't think they consider him that kind of an upgrade, and thus are not interested in moving a first round pick for him. The other thing that's holding this up is they don't want to take money back that extends beyond this season, as they want to keep their books as wide open as they possibly can for the pre and free agency that we talked about, that we have been talking about the last few days. So you combine it all, and I think it's kind of a pessimistic outlook here, but it does kind of feel like, and this is mostly speculation, but it does kind of feel like, we're probably looking at Shake Milton being waived and a veteran minimum signing probably until Maxey and or Gabe are moved, and those expiring contracts. You know what? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that the Lakers were working harder to canvass the league to see who was interested in Jared Vanderbilt's contract at all, because that would further open up cap space beyond the season than they are to open up their biannual exception right now. Their priority is very clearly not this season. I don't know that I would go so far as to call it a punt, but I would say it's like an arm punt, right? Where, yeah, technically you could throw the ball and maybe you get a pass interference, or somehow, some way your guy comes down with it. But if you're sitting there at like 3rd and 20 from the 1-yard line, and you have your quarterback roll out and throw the football as far as he can possibly throw it, and hope that the DB is dumb enough to catch it, then that could be one way of looking at this. Is like, look, if we throw it out, if we throw the ball way out there and our guy comes down with it, and somehow, some way we come down with an impact player that doesn't involve moving the 31 or 32 pick, that doesn't involve taking on long-term money, that maybe even sheds long-term money in Jared Vanderbilt, we'll throw that football out there and we'll see what happens. But in all likelihood, that ball either gets picked off and the other team sets up deeper than they should be, or the the ball hits the turf and you get ready to punt after throwing that Hail Mary. So we'll see what this kind of looks like and what this offseason kind of turns into. But for the next, by the time you guys are listening to this in podcast form, that'll be the 16th. By the way, happy birthday to my little brother Andrew. The Lakers will have 4 days from that point to, I think, go a long way in showing us again the creativity from this front office, or the lack thereof, the foresight from this. Oh my God, if Shake Milton is somehow guaranteed for the rest of the season, you will not see a happy camper here. I don't think it's going to happen, but there are a lot of times where I look at things that the Lakers are getting ready to do and I'm like, don't you dare. And oftentimes they wind up doing it, and this would be one of those examples. I don't think Shake Milton will be a Laker next year. I would honestly be shocked if Shake Milton was a Laker next year. But I also can't really put much past this organization, which makes me a little nervous. But yeah, the next 4 days or so, or to those of you who are watching live, the next 4 days and some change or so, they're going to go a long way in telling us what the Lakers front office is capable of. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. If you guys are here watching on YouTube, if you guys are watching from Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge to find the show there. And if you guys are listening to the show in the morning via podcast, please hit that subscribe button. And please hit that 5-star review button wherever it is that you're watching, preferably on Odyssey. All right, let's go ahead and dive on into the questions here. I'm going to start, obviously. Let me just make sure I don't have. I do have starred comments. So, all right, I'll come back to the starred comments. Thank you for those so far. But I always promised you guys that the iTunes reviews, the 5-star iTunes reviews, are the best way to get your question read, and I'm going to live up to that promise. So this is from JP22/1. Is there a possibility that Project Giannis/Jokic/second star blows up, especially when players like Kawhi, Clay, PG-13, and others did not want to come, and LeBron brought AD to LA by proxy, and by proxy Luka? Also, would those aforementioned players see what is going on with Bron and alter their decision? All right. So, I mean, the first part of the question is pretty straightforward. Is there a possibility that the Giannis Jokic plan blows up? Absolutely. I mean, they could just not get those guys. One thing I've been thinking about a lot, and I talked to a few people out there in Vegas, more than a few people in Vegas about this, is are we assuming things about Jokic, about Giannis, about even Luka that we shouldn't be assuming based on the acts of the prior generation who have very different outlooks and priorities? Um, the American NBA star, the domestic NBA star, seems to be a lot less loyal than the international NBA star. I'm not saying whether that's good or bad. I am just pointing out that American NBA superstars seem a lot more open to moving and making them, for themselves a better situation by moving or by holding feet to the fire to pressure teams or their current teams into making more moves right now. Now, that isn't to say like Giannis has certainly sent a couple of shots across the bow over the years of the Milwaukee Bucks to make sure that they're remaining a little honest about like the what he demands of that front office, of that organization. There are certainly international players who have moved or asked out and stuff like that. I'm not saying that these are definitive and 100% waterproof theories or trends that I have noticed, but it is something that I've thought about is like, are the Lakers basically, keeping an eye to the future without perhaps, thinking about the types of players that they're trying to convince to leave? Luka in and of himself is a bit of an example of this, where he changed teams from the Dallas Mavericks to the Lakers. He never demanded out, and he looked absolutely shell-shocked when they moved him, right? You saw that press conference. He looked like somebody just ran over his dog. And he talked about how he planned on being a Dallas Maverick for the entirety of his career. And that's while the Dallas Mavericks were firing his close associates. They were kind of, passive aggressively, talking to him about his weight and stuff like that, but wouldn't actually come out and explicitly demand the things that they wanted from Luka Doncic. And he, even with all of that going on, even while they were calling him fat and a loser in the media after they traded him, he still sat there in that press conference and then gave interviews after the fact saying, "Yeah, I still thought I was going to be a Dallas Maverick forever." And so yeah, like we can like, I see a comment here from Mr. Coco Nuts. Americans know their worth. During the last strike, the players said, "We will take less than 50% if you show me your books." And the owner centered. Again, I'm not saying that either side of these trends that I have noticed have this right. I do think it's important for labor to understand their worth. Hell, I had plenty of conversations with fellow podcasters and writers and stuff like that about the future of this industry and how important it is for us to know our worth in era where all of our employers seem to look for every opportunity to use any kind of bad news around the world to cut costs, right? So like I'm very much a proponent of pro labor laws and pro labor policies. I'm not saying that American superstars shouldn't hold their owners accountable when they feel like that owner isn't doing everything they can to help that superstar win. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is merely the trend of international players showing a lot more patience than American superstars. And if your future is being planned for these international superstars to jump ship when they haven't shown any interest in doing so to this point, any real interest in doing so to this point, then are you setting yourself up for failure? So to answer that first part of the question here from JP, is there a possibility the Jokic Giannis plan blows up? Yeah, absolutely. There's a possibility that it blows up and that the Lakers will have to scramble for plan C or worse. Now, the other part of this is also interesting. Would those aforementioned players see what is going on with Braun and alter their decision? So I wrote, it's in my notes. I have to copy it over to Clutch Points. Sorry, Clutch Points. I will get that to you ASAP. But this is what an Eastern Conference executive told me over the weekend. Quote, the Lakers have to be careful. Luka just got his butt kicked by a team he handled easily the previous year, and now they're telling him to wait another year before he can really compete. If Denver wins it all or comes close, while Rob makes it clear he doesn't believe in Luka and LeBron as a combo, meaning Denver, could be a real threat for him the next season or two. And look, like those other teams that are also positioning themselves for Luka might be going on a fool's errand as well, because Luka seems incredibly loyal and is hoping to remain a Laker for the rest of his career. But there's risk involved here, where if the Lakers do, commit all of their eggs to the basket of 2026 or 2027, and it pisses off Luka enough. Like, it's one thing for Luka to okay the plan right now while we're in July, and the concept of Giannis or Jokic is bright enough or promising enough to overlook what punting a season could potentially feel like. But when he's in the thick of it, after spending an off season very clearly working on his body and getting himself right, and if he's in the thick of it, and the Lakers, will have set themselves up to, again, either arm punt or actually punt on this season, that conversation might go very differently in, December or January than it has gone so far in June and July. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But at the end of the day, this can go poorly. Pursuing free agents typically goes poorly, even for those of us who have lived such blessed lives as we have, being fans of the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, as far as the LeBron specific aspect of this is something that I can't lie, I am a little nervous about. That Luka is looking at the way that the Lakers have been treating LeBron, or that LeBron sends Luka a text message and be like, dude, I was in your shoes once upon a time, and I was all they had eyes for. And I asked for them to jump, and they asked me how high. And then all of a sudden, that Russell Westbrook trade went poorly, that they also wanted. They drug my name through the mud by leaking about how that situation played out, and then have been reluctant to push chips into the middle of the table ever since that trade. And now, while I'm coming off of an all NBA season the year prior, they're once again telling me to chill and just wait for maybe a year or two when they get themselves another superstar and I get pushed even further down the totem pole. That's not how the Los Angeles Lakers have historically treated superstars. And for them to about face as drastically as they have here with LeBron James, if LeBron has a very honest conversation with Luka about how all of this has made him feel, I don't know how that conversation would go. I don't think the Lakers know how that conversation would go. And that makes me a little nervous, right? That there's a, I'm not saying that would definitely happen. And I think I would say it's likelier that they don't even have that conversation. but there is that really annoying voice in the back of my mind, and I'll probably be that really annoying voice in the back of your guys' minds here moving forward, because that's the whole brand of my podcast. But there might be that really annoying voice in the back of my mind saying, man, I hope they don't have that conversation, because I can't imagine the last few years have been very fun for LeBron. All right, let's get to some of you guys' super comments, which means I get to play this bad boy. All right, first one here comes from Vinny Jaj, who writes, do I expect any trades, any chances at Beal? Thought of Milton and Horford? Have you heard about Smart? Are the Lakers done with their moves? All right, let's go in order here. Do I expect any trades? No, I don't expect any trades. I know that I expect the Lakers to continue working on said trades. I know that they're working on said trades, but it's like I said, I think it was with Pete, and he and I were talking about, or maybe it was with somebody offline, I forget. But essentially, I've said this to you guys on the show before, but essentially, there are, well, frankly, a multitude of ways to be a newsbreaker or a reporter while covering, we'll just make it specifically the NBA, and if you want specifically the Lakers. But the one way that you could do it, if your sourcing is as good as somebody like Shams is to just wait for news to be about to break, and then have the central figures of that situation just text you, all right, guys, this is what's about to happen. And there's a lot more work that goes into it. You have to, you have to work to hammer down those sources, and there are stories that you chase forever. But even Shams has said, right, that he got that text about the Luka trade, and he was shocked at the fact that, and he had to like scramble and thought his phone was hacked. And that's, the kind of thing that you can do. You can break that story if the central figures in place there specifically text you what's going on there. And I'm just going to be honest, like, as of now, that'll happen every so often, but it won't be as explicit, though. So I wind up having to work on it, which takes an extra little while. And unless there's something else going on, Shams is going to break stuff before I do. Another way to do this is to do kind of like what Zach Lowe does, where it's really clear that he talks to people throughout the league. And it's really clear if he wanted to, he could just break news all the time. But he kind of chooses to use that information to inform his analysis. And if you read between the lines of, how he analyzes teams or situations, you could kind of arrive at, oh, okay, he saw this coming after the fact, right? And then the way that I kind of like to do it, and Jake Fisher kind of operates like this as well, and others. Jovan has talked about, operating like this to a certain extent as well, is I'll hear what the Lakers are trying to do and the types of names that they are trying to pursue and the teams that they are talking to. And what I'll do is I'll try to paint you guys as full a picture and as complete a picture as I possibly can, given the information that I have. And now what that means is I'm talking to you guys about the process of whatever it is that they're trying to do. And oftentimes, and far more often than not, teams will have conversations. They'll have trade conversations, or a team will have free agency conversations with either a player that is actually a free agent, or, obviously legally, conversations with a player who's about to become a free agent. And during that process, the story can twist and turn, and it can go up and come down and turn upside down. Like, any number of things can happen while a team is trying to do stuff. So, when you ask me, do I expect any trades? No, because far more often, trade negotiations fall through than trades are actually agreed upon. And now, what I do expect and what I do know, and what I can tell you is that the Lakers are definitely right now, even talking to teams, trying to accomplish their goals this offseason, and whatever those goals might be. And based on the stuff that I have heard, I still believe they are working towards a consolidation trade. I still believe that they understand they need a better point of attack defender. I do believe that they understand they need a better backup center than even maybe Jackson Hayes. But as it stands right now, it takes two to tango in all of those conversations, and as such, it's going to take a little while. So I try to outline the process, and by the time whatever the Lakers do is actually done, maybe we'll have all arrived at the same conclusion or outcome to the situation as I had been talking about before. But there are also other times where shit comes completely out of left field. And like, here's another example of this: the JJ Redick thing. Um, I was at Lakers Daily at the time, and when they embarked on their coaching search, it was very clear to me from a very early on point in that coaching search that the Lakers had eyes for and were zeroed in on JJ Redick. And I have been telling you guys, whether it was here on this show or in my writing for Lakers Daily, that's how I saw this playing out. And that's where they were trying to arrive, right? Like, they basically headed into that process, and I reported this at the time, but they headed into that process of hiring JJ Redick, hoping to be wowed by JJ Redick. The one thing that you're always going to be is wowed by JJ Redick when he sits across at the table from you and talks basketball. That's how his show got so big so fast. So it was always really clear to me that JJ Redick was far and away the leader in the clubhouse to that. Now, over the course of those talks, that story took some turns, right? Dan Hurley was a thing. James Borrego was a thing. AD was really pushing for James Borrego. And yet, by the time I felt comfortable saying JJ Redick is going to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, I wasn't like I wasn't afraid over the next 48 hours or so, 24, 48 hours between my reporting that and it being broken by Shams and Woj. I wasn't nervous. I remember I had people asking me, like, are you getting nervous? Why hasn't this happened yet? Why isn't this happening? What's going on? And I was just like, I know where this is going. I'm just gonna sit here and wait. And that's how it went, right? So yeah, as far as, like, like chances at Beal or thoughts on Melton and Horford. So I'll talk about Beal specifically. This isn't sourced, but I have always been skeptical that Bradley Beal, who sat through mediocre situation after mediocre situation and now has sat in a shitty situation in Phoenix for as long as he has, for the sake of maximizing his financial outlook. It's always been weird to me how many people just assume this guy's going to give up $14 million so that Phoenix can undo that fuck up of a trade. That never made any sense to me. Now, that said, talk to people over the weekend, and people are still adamant. They would be shocked if Bradley Beal isn't waived and stretched in short order or by the end of this summer, so that more teams have a chance at being able to pick him up as a buyout. And we'll see how this plays out. I'm not throwing dirt on anybody's reporting. There's obviously a lot of really, really good reporters covering this situation a lot more closely than I am. He's not an LA Laker. But we were told that a buyout was happening 24, 48 hours ago, something like a week plus ago. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Any chances at Beal? I would still put the Lakers behind the Clippers in terms of likely destinations for Beal. Part of the reason he hasn't felt all that great about being a Phoenix Sun, and one of the reported concerns from Beal last year was that he was asked to come off of the bench, and that was part of why Mike Budenholzer was eventually fired, was because of that friction in that situation. If he were to come to the Lakers, I don't think he would start. I think Austin Reeves is probably a little bit better at basketball right now than Bradley Beal. And as such, the Lakers are going to play the better player. And so would Bradley Beal want to be like the third guard coming off of not the third guard in total coming off of the bench, but the first guard that comes off of the bench for either Austin or Luka? I don't know. Not if the alternative is going and starting with the Clippers on a team that has plenty of athleticism to be able to make up for some of his defensive deficiencies. So, like, any chance at Beal? I'm not going to say the Lakers have no chance at him, but I do think they are a little ways behind a team like the Clippers that can offer him a starting gig. That was part of the deal with Klay Thompson last year, was that the Lakers with a rookie coach in JJ Redick didn't want to promise a starting gig to Klay Thompson. And now Klay Thompson, I don't think really wanted to play in LA specifically. There are some players who just, don't really want to come back home. If he did come to the Lakers and didn't win a championship with the Lakers, would he have felt like a bit of a failure compared to his dad, who did win a championship there? I think that all of that kind of played a role in it as well. But also, the Lakers wouldn't go so far as to promise him that starting gig. Dallas did, and he went to Dallas for less money than the Lakers were offering at the time. So, and by the way, that was another situation where right when Klay Thompson was either waived or bought out or whatever it was, everything I heard initially was he's going to Dallas. He's probably going to Dallas. There were people there close to Dallas who were telling me, yeah, we feel pretty confident. There were people close to the Warriors who were also telling me, yeah, Klay has kind of informed them that's probably where he's winding up too. And that was in that first night. And then the next morning I woke up and there was a lot more optimism there because he didn't make that decision right away. And there wasn't that promise right when he was waived. And there were people within the Lakers organization who were like, well, he hasn't made the decision yet. Maybe, just maybe, let's try to offer him a little bit more money and see where that gets us. And then obviously he goes to Dallas and the rest is kind of history. But even that shortly lived story took a few turns over the course of it. And, there are some people who would say that I am reporting false information when no, like that shit just changes over the course of that story. And then the outcome of that story, it winds up being the outcome of that story. So, yeah, the Beal thing, so long as the Lakers are unwilling to promise a starting gig, I think they have less of a chance at at him than some of these other teams do. What do I think of Milton and Horford? I think they're both going to Golden State, is what I've been hearing basically all weekend. Now, again, that's not done. That's not, everybody is still kind of waiting for this Beal thing. But yeah, I believe the Warriors can give Melton more than the Lakers can, even if they give Horford a sizable chunk of that non-taxpayer mid-level exception. The other thing, obviously, that everybody has to wait for in Golden State is the outcome to the Jonathan Kuminga situation. So it is going to be interesting. No, there's no reason for this to happen anytime soon because the NBA season doesn't get started, or even training camps don't get started for a little while. So there's no reason for the league to kind of move on from some of these stories. But I do kind of wonder, the deeper we get into this offseason and the longer that these stalemates hold up for, at what point some of these teams just say, like, all right, I'm done waiting. You're only Bradley Beal at this stage of your career. Or if you're the Golden State Warriors, you say, you know what, fine, we're pulling the offer. here's your qualifying offer. You can sign it and become a free agent at the end of this year. I don't know how close we are to any of those things, and technically those are also possibilities too. And if those stories go in that direction, then obviously we get to react to however those stories go. Have I heard about Smart? So far, the Wizards have waived Rashawn Holmes, I believe, and they waived somebody else today. I'm trying to find it. If I find it again, maybe I'll let's see. All right. Yeah, all right, so maybe it's just Rashawn Holmes so far that they have waived. But they do have to move off of some of these other guys before the start of next season. So that's another reason for the Lakers. They're like, we don't. The only thing that matters, the only deadline facing the Lakers right now is Shake Milton's contract situation, and that has no impact. Them waiving, or well, certainly them waiving Shake Milton doesn't impact their pursuit of any of these guys. So there's no reason for the Lakers to waive Shake right now while they have a few days still left to try to trade him either into cap space or make him part of a consolidation trade that would save the other team some money. Um, there's just no reason to jump to any kind of decision that you don't have to jump to right now. So have I heard about Smart? I know the Lakers like Smart. I know that is one of those situations that the Lakers are kind of keeping an eye on, and specifically with Washington, not just Smart, but some of their other guys as well. And then that final part of the question: are the Lakers done with their moves? No, I would be pretty surprised if this iteration of the Lakers, I would be shocked if this iteration of the Lakers is the one that we see on opening night. Doesn't mean it can't happen, won't happen, but I would be shocked if Shake Milton was on the Lakers next year. So, but no, I'm not even. He's not going to be a Laker. There's just no way. They can't be that dumb. Eeg, apologize if you've covered this before, but I find it strange. Everyone is completely dismissing / thinking it's impossible the Lakers buy out LeBron if he wants. Would you be shocked? So I have been told and was kind of told over the course of the weekend that the Lakers probably wouldn't, buy out LeBron if he wants. Now look, if they do buy him out, that also obviously helps get them a little bit under the first apron. So if LeBron wants to walk and is just absolutely done, then there would be, some productivity to those conversations. There would be some positive, I guess, financial outlook there for the Lakers. But and I said it yesterday, I think if LeBron does um, ask out, demand out. If he looks at this roster, there was a good point made on Twitter today. Sorry, I have too much stuff that I have kind of up on the screen that I need to get to eventually. But that statement that Rich Paul threw out there was made before the Lakers had a starting center. Now they do. Now the counter to that is that Dorian Finney-Smith was the cost of that starting center. And I still haven't seen LeBron acknowledge DeAndre Ayton publicly. I saw he was in the picture with DA, but I don't think I saw any like interaction between the two of them. It doesn't matter. But yeah, the would I be shocked if LeBron is bought out? I think macro, yes, micro, not necessarily. Macro in a sense of like, God, how did we arrive here? How did this go so poorly, even after acquiring Luka Doncic to arrive here? Um, micro, would I be shocked? That would be the Lakers doing good by a superstar. And in that sense, no, I don't think I would be surprised, but I don't think I would be shocked. Um, I I still don't think that would be good for LeBron's legacy. And we know that he cares about legacy. So I can't dismiss it out of hand. That LeBron won't be bought out, but I still say, and I have a report coming tomorrow. Um, and I talked about this on yesterday's show. I would still be pretty surprised if LeBron isn't a Laker on opening day of this season. Now, trade deadline and all that stuff, obviously stories change in that time, but between now and the start of the season, I think it's probably pretty likely that LeBron is a Laker on opening day. E also asks, I feel like it would be Genie showing an appreciation to LeBron for digging them out of the gutter. LeBron signs where he wants, and that would be ending on good terms. I mean, I don't know that like LeBron, the situation eroding to the point where LeBron demands out via buyout is necessarily ending on good terms, but I guess, it would be them being kind of on the same page, in that final decision, which, maybe that's how it plays out. But again, I still come down to, on July 15th at 10:39 my time, I still believe that LeBron will be a Laker on opening night. All right, let's pull up my Twitter feed and my Twitter mentions. And that's normally a very scary thing to say out loud. So the first question I have here is from the account LeBron's Big Toe. Um, Biggest takeaway from the summer league: roster, coaching, etc. Uh, I I think the roster was really missing some of the guys that the Lakers added in the draft this year. Um, Marciulionis is, I think, a bit better of a floor general than the Lakers had. I thought it was really apparent when Bronny wasn't on the court that the Lakers really missed that kind of offensive engine and initiator. So when you don't have that in that kind of setting where everything is very kind of pickup based, that puts you really behind the eight ball. Uh, Coaching wise, like I didn't see anything from the Lakers coaching wise that made me think, okay, yeah, uh, this is a huge advantage that the Lakers have strategically over their opponents. I never really noticed that, so it was fine, I would say. Again, you're missing uh Adu Thiero, who would have provided some athleticism and umph in transition. I thought that not having Collins as another kind of safety valve for the offense, the Lakers' offense really struggled in summer league at times, and I thought that the guys who were not there, um, really would have helped in some of that regard. Now, in a summer league where you're, the guy who should have been far and away your best player in Dalton Connect, he makes his impact on the offensive end, and the fact that he looked as bad as he did as frequently as he did, that wasn't ideal either. So, yeah, I overall thoughts on like the summer league, the basketball that we watched from the Lakers this year. Look, the biggest thing, well, second biggest thing, the biggest thing was Dalton looking as bad as he did, but it was really good to see Bronny just night and day compared, right now to what we saw from him this time last summer. I thought he was fantastic every time that I saw him out there. And now, do I think that he was so good that I think he's going to go out and be a rotation type player this year? No. If Bronny is a rotation type player for the Lakers this year, something will have gone really, really well in Bronny's case, or really, really poorly in the Lakers' case. So I would say this is going to be another development year. But if he has another development year as successful as last year's was, after this year, I could see him becoming a bona fide impact NBA player. That I do see in his cards. I don't know that I would have said that last year. Let's see. The next one here, path to rings, I think, Lakers purple and something. Is the fact that Milton and Horford haven't been signed mean that the league is waiting for excuse me. Waiting for a bigger move to happen before these smaller moves happen? Yeah, I think that's a pretty good read of it. Everybody's just kind of in limbo, waiting for Kuminga, waiting for Beal, waiting for Washington to make decisions with some of their guys and other veterans around the league to be bought out. We just saw Josh Okogie bought out, or no, I think he was waived, or his non-guaranteed contract wasn't picked up by the Charlotte Hornets. It's like I said, a week or so ago, or however long ago that I said it. The entire NBA, I think, has a different outlook on expiring contracts for veterans, in that it used to be you traded those expiring contracts as part of a deal to get a better player. And if you were trading for a solid veteran who was on an expiring contract, that was seen as a good thing. But now I still think you can use expiring contracts to help teams open up some of their financial flexibility. I think we'll see a lot of that at the deadline. But yeah, I think some of these players and their agents and their camps are basically kind of saying, look, obviously, if you can trade me, great. But if you're not going to trade me, then I would prefer to just be bought out so I can go and find a home with an entire training camp to have my spot on this roster or in that rotation stick. And now in Kogie's case, he had a deadline by which he had to have that decision made. They actually pushed that deadline back, and then weren't able to make anything of it. So he winds up getting waived, and that's somebody who I think the Lakers should really be interested in. Yes, the shooting is not great, but he is an absolute dog defensively. He's really good at a position that the Lakers are not good defensively. And I do think that he could probably be gotten for the veteran minimum. So I would say that's if the Lakers do clear some roster spots, I would love if Okogie wound up in one of them. But yeah, is the league waiting for like a larger domino to fall? It usually is. When you see an offseason just kind of the way that this one did, that usually is in indicator that everybody is waiting for something. And I guess we should say it, that something could be an explicit and definitive outcome to this LeBron Lakers situation. It's possible. Not saying that is. I think it's far likelier that everybody's waiting for Beal and Kuminga. But if it starts hitting the airwaves out there that maybe, just maybe, LeBron might become available via buyout, then you will see everybody stop what they're doing, and that'll lead conversations around the league until he eventually is and eventually signs. Let's see. Fern asking me, did your perspective on whether LeBron starts the season with LA change after this weekend? No, I wouldn't say so. Hit on that earlier. Bashir asking, got any extra info on the Wiggins report that Miami's going to keep him to start the season? Yeah, it turns out that, as I said, I think yesterday, it looks like Wiggins is going to be on the Miami Heat moving forward. The Heat wanted a first rounder, and the Lakers didn't want to give up a first rounder for him. And now there was some debate as to would like the type of offer Miami would take for Wiggins. But yeah, end of the day, I think especially after they traded for Norm Powell, if your backcourt is Norm Powell and Tyler Hero, you need somebody at the point of attack or a perimeter defender of Wiggins' caliber. And we know that Pat Riley is just absolutely diametrically opposed to tanking or not going for it, and trading Wiggins when that's your backup or when that's your backcourt. That's what not going for it would look like. Let's see. At let's see. At Los Real Ali or Los Real Ali. I don't know. Oh snap! What did you get? What did you do to get banned from the hotel, dude? Man, all right. So I stayed at the Polo Towers, that like Hilton there. It's like right across the street from Planet Hollywood. And the first night that I was there, I stayed Friday, Saturday, and then I stayed Sunday at my tias who lives in Henderson. So the first night that I was there, I had checked in, I had dropped off all of my stuff, I had unpacked all of my stuff. If I'm going to be somewhere a couple of days, I'm the kind of guy who like puts stuff in that hotel in ways that I would have it if I were like living there, just so it doesn't feel so hotelish to me. So I had done all of that and got ready, went out that night, and I was at Old Town Vegas. Well, first, met up with Raj and with Trevor at MGM. We had a good time there, had a really good conversation, and yeah, Trevor's a good dude. So first we were there, and then got a text from some other people that, hey, we're at Fremont. You should come down here and come hang out. So Raj and Trevor and I headed down to Fremont and then had more kind of industry type conversations there. Obviously had my share of fun as well. Probably finally got back to my hotel at like 2:30 in the morning. And at 2:30 in the morning, I am tired. I've had plenty to drink. 2:30 in the morning in Vegas is 4:30 in the morning my time. So I am wiped. I am just absolutely done. I go up, put my key up against the door, green light, go to open it, doesn't move. Huh. All right. So I go down, say, hey, I put my key to the lock. It's shown green. I even heard the thing go, acknowledge that the key was there. But the door won't open. They're like, oh, here, let me get you another key. Take the other key up there. Same thing happens again. Go back down to the front office and say again, or to the front desk. Say, hey, that happened again. The key isn't working. I need to get into my room. I'm really tired. So like, well, chill right here, and we'll get somebody from facilities up there to see what the problem might be. See if their master keys will let you into your room. So I wait there for I'd say like a half hour or so. So it's like 3:30 in the morning at this point. Facilities finally, the on-site manager of the facilities team shows up, uses his master key. Same thing happens, and he was like, "Oh, well, I guess we could try this other tool," which basically like slid under the door. You open up the door. The hope was to open up the door from the other side and get into the hotel room that way. And it was taking them forever to do that. So it was like 4 o'clock in the morning at that point, which again, 6 o'clock my time. I go down to the front desk and I'm like, "Hey, ma'am, look, I'm really tired. I have gone from buzzed to hungover while I've been awake. I've like, is there anything is there any other room here that I can go to just to sleep?" at least a little while. And she was like, nope, sorry, no can do, sir. We are fully booked. And I was like, I'm sure. So I go back up to to my room. They're still working on the door. The guy's like, dude, I don't think this is gonna happen. Like, I don't know, man. And there was so the hotel rooms there were like old school and they were like conjoined. There were doors in between the two hotel rooms. And the guy was like getting ready to like knock on the door to this other hotel room at 4 in the morning. And I'm like, no, man, don't wake up somebody else on my behalf. There's no other room that I can go to. And the guy's like, look, I believe we're heading towards a shift change. New manager will be in about 20-30 minutes. Why don't you go head down there and see if maybe there's another room? So I go down there, and the manager fortunately had gotten there early. And I told the guy, I was like, hey man, I'm exhausted. I don't know if you've been updated on this situation, but I've been here since 2:30 in the morning waiting for my hotel to be able to be broken into. Is there any other room? And he goes, oh, hold on, let me check. Fucking 5 seconds later. Oh, yeah. Here, let me write up this key for you. It's whatever the room it was. Go ahead and knock out up there, and we're going to keep working on your hotel room, and we'll contact you. Or why don't you go ahead and get your sleep and, hit us up in the morning when you're awake. And I was like, deal, fine. So I go up to my new room, after he tells me like, oh yeah, totally, we have your room. I looked over at the lady who was still there, and I was like, how about that? So I go back up to my room or go to my new room, lie down, head hits the pillow, immediately out. 15 minutes later, I get a call. Guess what, Mr. Irwin? We broke into your hotel room. Feel free to come get your belongings at any time. By the way, you're going to want to come get them now because we literally had to break down the door and your stuff is out in the open here waiting for you. Not out in the open in the hallway, but like anybody could have just walked into that hotel room, grabbed all of my stuff, and walked out. So at that point, it is now like 5, I would say, in the morning. I go down to that hotel room. I had to repack everything, put it on, and at that point too, the room that I was in had like a refrigerator. So I had gone and I had bought some water and I had bought some other stuff. So I had to put that. I needed a cart. I wound up needing a cart so I asked, hey, can you go get me a cart while I pack up really quick? He was like, oh, totally. Yeah. I should have got that for you in the first place. So that takes another like 10 minutes or so. So finally I get into my hotel room and able to sleep at 6 in the morning. I had to be somewhere the next morning. So I got like 3 hours of sleep. So that epiphany moment that I talked about, where it was like, does any of this matter? What am I doing here? What am I doing with my life? That was that next morning where I'm like, does any of this matter? I am so fucking grumpy. I don't want to talk about LeBron subtweeting the Lakers. This is nonsense. I just want to sleep. I miss my family. I miss my bed. I miss my home. All of that stuff. I'm just so freaking, grumpy. And so when you ask, what did I do to get banned from the hotel? I didn't get banned. I remained. I had a couple snappy moments or whatever. It was super early, i.e. late, however you want to look at it. But I was like, dude, I am done. So I had a flight to fly out on Monday at like almost 9:00 Vegas time. I would have got back to my house at like 2 in the morning between the flight and getting my bag and hopping in an Uber and all that stuff. And I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. I used some points and I used the refund on that flight that would have been the next night to book myself an earlier flight Monday morning and got back to like, I was just in no mood. Like, I felt bad for the people who saw me on Saturday. I was walking around with like a water. I was just not in the best place. I was just tired. I'm old at this point. I can't do that kind of stuff anymore. Gregory Brown, how long do you see Rob staying as GM? So this is funny. The name of this podcast is, or this YouTube episode is, how much patience will new ownership have for Rob Pelinka? and I am at 59 minutes and 48 seconds. So to those of you who have stuck around for all of that, including that last story, thank you very much. Subscribe, like, all of that good stuff. How much patience will they have for Rob? I think it's all going to be dictated by Luka, like how conversations go with Luka for this extension that he can sign next month. The other part of this that I hope that they factor in is some of the stuff that you hear about Rob around the league. You know, his treatment of Dorian in those negotiations. LeBron, I don't think in his camp feel all that great. Like the thing about Rob, he's an agent, and he was specifically a great agent with superstars. And agents, they aren't all like this, but the more money that a player can make that agent, the more attention that player is going to get, or that entity is going to get. And I think, I think Rob has carried a very similar outlook into being, running basketball operations, where you don't matter to him until you do. And people who aren't on that level are very kind of not explicitly, but like very clearly, um, not treated is, I guess, the lack of a better term here, but kind of treated in a certain way compared to other players on the roster, based on how much you can help him. And there are some stories out there about that I haven't talked about, that maybe at some point I'll I'll open up the notebook. Um but yeah, I Friedman doesn't necessarily treat people that way. And the Guggenheim and all that, I think they understand the value in having a good reputation around the league and being somebody that other teams will want to work with, because of that reputation. And as such, I don't think they're going to have a whole bunch of patience for Rob, especially if this Luka thing doesn't go the way that the Lakers think it's going to go. And also depending on how he reacts to, if the Lakers bring in a Masai Ujiri, or if they bring in other people to work, even if it's underneath Rob, in terms of the org chart. I do kind of wonder. I do believe that TWG or Guggenheim, they're going to be watching very, very closely to see how all of that goes and how open Rob will be to working in a more modern organization compared to the way he's been able to operate over the last couple of years, where it's like, I have final say, especially after the Russ trade, and then after trading Russ and getting to the Western Conference Finals, and then especially after getting Luka Doncic. Rob won the turf war with Clutch Sports, and as such has run around like he's been Pac this time since then. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. If maybe Rob changes that tune a little bit as Guggenheim takes over more fully, and as they bring in more resources and more brain power. And I think to answer that question, in terms of patience, I don't think the Lakers will have any patience whatsoever for anybody who is reluctant or fights against modernization of this organization. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers lowdown. Unless, I got more questions. So, appetizers and sushi. It is 11 my time. You're making me hungry again. You're not supposed to eat while you're trying to lose weight and then fall asleep. Let's see, bullshit. Let's see. These owners don't care about players. They just care about money. Jerry West was treated like shit by Jeannie, and he was the logo. Blind loyalty is shit. No, I garbage, I think is the emoji there. Now, I look to those players who have fought over the years in this player empowerment era, especially at the beginning of it. I thought they were completely in the right. I think it's gone a little far sometimes. Where I was watching the Major League Baseball's all-star game today, and those guys were like actually trying out there, and it was a really entertaining product. And I thought the home run derby last night was also really fun, and you actually had star power in that, compared to the slam dunk contest where it's like, we sure hope Mac McClung plays again this year. I just, that is where, players losing sight of their own entertainment value and how the league benefits in a macro way to them caring about the league beyond what the league can do for them. Uh, that is where I have kind of pushed back from the quote unquote player empowerment era. But especially early, man, like when you had owners like Donald Sterling, or when you had an owner like James Dolan, who was, very clearly anti-player. Eventually, he brought people in there who understood how important it is to work with your players. Crazy freaking concept. Um, you know, Early on in the player empowerment era, absolutely. And by the way, like, this generation of American superstar that fought for that stuff, that's the way that they held those owners accountable, was by saying, "All right, fine. You don't do everything that we need you to do to make, because these guys players, these guys' legacies are on the line." They're basically saying like, "All right, fine. Fuck around, find out." And finding out meant that some of these owners lost their superstars. And I'm fine with that. I'm saying that international players haven't exactly been wired the same way. So it's going to be interesting to see if we see some of that same trend play out, in this pre-agency with Jokic, with Luka, with Giannis, here moving forward. The Wannabe GMs podcast, trying to get creative and chase upside. Thoughts on this trade? Connect Vando Kleba and a swap for AO and Pat Will, swapping bad contracts to get AO. The the problem with, I got to look at Patrick Williams' contract here, but the problem with Patrick Williams' contract is like, especially compared to Vando, it's one thing to have a bad contract on your books like Vando's is and have it be fairly cheap. Like Vando's contract, I believe, is 11.5 million for this next season. Uh, Patrick Williams' contract is for $18 million over an additional, he has an extra year on his deal. Like that contract, the thing that the Lakers are trying to avoid is getting themselves into any situations here where if it comes time for it, they are not able to move any of the contracts, so they have to pay too much to move a contract, and that prohibits their pursuit of superstar X. And Patrick Williams' contract would be that, even more so than Jared Vanderbilt. So I don't see this happening here in that way. Now, AO is somebody that the Lakers like. He's somebody that Chicago isn't really all that interested in paying. Now, if the Lakers do trade for him, he would be, his cap hold next year wouldn't be that bad either. So, like, if the Lakers were to, and I don't think this would actually happen, but if the Lakers were to basically go to the Bulls and say, "Hey, Gabe Vincent's expiring at 11.5 for AO and like another minimum contract. We'll give you a swap or something like that for him." I could maybe see that happening, though. I think that if the bidding war actually opened up, that Dosunmu would actually fetch more than that. So I see where you're going there. I get it, but with the Lakers being so dogmatic about their cap space next year, I don't think Patrick Williams is somebody. Well, he's somebody nobody wants, but especially not the Lakers. All right, that was a good mailbag, guys. Wow, well done, fantastic stuff. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. I'm sorry for getting into the weeds as much as I do with reporting and stuff like that, but I try to. Oh, we got even more. John Blue, one, why is Luka not fighting for LeBron for a shot this season? Second, if LeBron stays, what are the chances LA tries to draft Bryce? There are some questions that get asked here that I know if I'm just slightly not careful enough, my mentions will be even more of a disaster than usual. And like 2 questions in one super. I appreciate the super, obviously, and thank you a ton. I'm giving you a hard time, but why is Luka not fighting for LeBron for a shot this season? That I again, I think it's more of a. I don't think it's like I don't, that Luka doesn't care about playing or maximizing his opportunity with LeBron. I think it's more that he kind of looks at what his future could be with a Giannis, with a Jokic, and the number of years that he would have to compete, compared to the single year or the year or two that he has with LeBron. And I think that's kind of the math that's being done there right now. That said, again, as I said earlier, if the Lakers start this year and they're well below expectations that you would have for a LeBron or Luka team, or even more interestingly, if Ayton is legit and if this team is, closer to being a contender, because that was always the thing that drove me nuts with LeBron and AD, was that we would see these flashes where it was really clear the Lakers were like, they didn't need that much help. And then eventually they got like just a little bit of help and they made it to the freaking Western Conference Finals the first time that they finally had like a semi-serious roster again. And I got swept there because Denver was clearly better. But imagine had the Lakers been building to a point at that point rather than just kind of willy-nilly, fixing one error and creating another error and arriving at that Western Conference Finals that way. And I think it's possible that this season starts. This team looks pretty damn good. Luka takes a look around. LeBron takes a look around and says, I mean, really, what could we do to bridge that gap, get us up actually in that tier? And I think that's part of the math that everybody is doing right now that I just don't really agree with. You guys heard the conversation that I had with Pete. I am more optimistic about a LeBron Luka pairing than I think most are. And it's the kind of thing that we're going to see, I would probably assume fairly early in the season, like, oh, yeah, that's right. They have two of the best 10 to 15 players in the NBA. And on any given night, they could have two top 10 to, 5 to 10 players in the NBA. It turns out that makes your team pretty good if they're even like, it's a somewhat logical roster. So it's going to be interesting to see as they get into the season what Luka's reaction to either mediocrity or quality would be. Now, as far as the second question there, if LBJ stays, what are the chances LA tries to draft Bryce? I don't really see it as much. Bronny at one point in his life was actually, like, going into college, was a very good prospect, and his heart, gave out on him. And it turns out that it takes a little while for you to get your feet back under you there. And that scared some teams off of him as a prospect and some analysts off of him as a prospect. I think he still has a little ways to go, but again, his heart stopped working. Bryce, I believe, is walking on at the University of Arizona. I don't like, at one point in his life, there was some talk that Bryce was actually the better prospect, and maybe that's how this plays out. We'll see what kind of season or seasons. Well, it would have to be a season that we'll see from Bryce whenever he gets there to Arizona. But yeah, Bronny, that was a lot easier to at least try to lie to people and say like, no, we're drafting Bronny for the basketball player. If Bryce is just like a walk-on who doesn't get very many minutes and stuff like that, and the Lakers tried to draft him and then try to, frame it as no, we see something there with this guy, that would be harder to sell. So I think from that standpoint, and it also really obviously depends on the state of the relationship between the Lakers and LeBron, what that looks like. I'm somewhat less optimistic that the Lakers would do everything for Bryce that they have done to this point for Bronny. But again, you never know with the way that kids grow and with the way games grow and how situations change. So my answer right now could be very different from my answers 6 months from now. All right, now I am leaving. No, thank you everybody for the comments, the questions. This was a really good conversation, I think. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, like, subscribe, rate, review, all of that good stuff. And then tell your friends about the show as well. So until tomorrow, when I'll find something to talk about, I'm sure. Have a great rest of your nights. Make somebody else's. And I will talk to you when I talk to you. Have a good one, everybody.